Captain Veltar pressed his scaled fingers against the smooth control panel of the Zephyrian exploration vessel. Gentle current. The soft blue lights of the bridge created a calm atmosphere, just as his people preferred. For 3 days they had been traveling through the void between, the empty space that separated the major galactic arms where nothing was supposed to exist. "Captain," called Science Officer Nimra from her station, her voice carrying the musical tones typical of their species. "We are detecting something unusual ahead. The readings are very strange." Veltar moved gracefully across the bridge, his long robes flowing behind him. The Zephyrians had evolved from peaceful ocean dwellers, and everything about their culture reflected harmony and calm. Their ships were built for research and exploration, not for conflict. "Show me what you have found," he said softly. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a vast field of stars. At first, Veltar saw nothing unusual. Then Nimra enhanced the image, and a massive dark shape appeared against the star field. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of their own vessel. "By the deep currents," whispered Communications Officer Talvin. "What is that thing?" The object was clearly artificial, but unlike any ship design in the galactic database. Its hull was dark and scarred, with strange angles that seemed designed for purposes the Zephyrians could not understand. Even from this distance, they could see that the surface was covered in what looked like impact marks and burn scars. "How long has it been drifting here?" Veltar asked. Nimra worked at her console, running various scans. Based on the energy decay patterns and stellar drift calculations, "Captain, this vessel has been here for at least 3,000 years, maybe longer, 3,000 years. That was before the current galactic civilization had even formed, before the Great Peace Accords that had ended the last major conflict between species. This ship was ancient beyond anything in their records." "Are there any life signs?" Veltar asked, though he expected the answer to be no. Nothing could survive 3 millennia in the cold void of space. Nimra frowned at her readings. "This is very strange, Captain. I am detecting faint energy signatures from deep within the vessel. And this cannot be correct. What is it?" "The scanners indicate life signs. Exactly 1,000 of them. They are very weak, but they are definitely there." The bridge fell silent. Talvin looked up from his station with wide eyes. 1,000 beings alive after 3,000 years? That is impossible. Veltar studied the mysterious ship on the screen. The Zephyrians were scientists first, and curiosity was stronger than fear in their nature. "Begin detailed scans. I want to know everything about this vessel. Its composition, its origin, its purpose." Over the next several hours, the scan results created more questions than answers. The ship's hull was made from materials that should not exist. Metal alloys that were incredibly strong but also strangely flexible. The energy readings suggested technology far beyond anything the current galaxy possessed. "Captain," Nimra reported, "I have found something interesting. There is a section of the hull that appears to have docking ports. They are of an unknown design, but our engineers believe we can create an adapter." Veltar considered this carefully. The Galactic Council had strict protocols about unknown vessels, especially ancient ones. But they were explorers, and this discovery could change their understanding of galactic history. "Prepare a boarding team," he decided. "Full environmental suits. We take no chances with unknown atmosphere or potential contamination." 2 hours later, Veltar led a small team through the airlock they had carefully attached to the alien vessel. Emergency lights flickered on as they entered, suggesting that some systems still functioned after all this time. The interior of the ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. The corridors were wide but low, designed for beings different from any known species. Strange markings covered the walls, not decorative but functional labels and warnings in a language none of them could read. "The atmosphere is breathable," reported Dr. Kessel, their medical officer, checking her scanner. "But there are trace elements I do not recognize. Keep your suits sealed." They moved deeper into the ship, following the corridors toward the source of the life signs. The further they went, the more obvious it became that this vessel had been built for purposes very different from their own peaceful exploration ships. The walls were thick, reinforced in ways that served no purpose unless the builders expected them to take heavy damage. Strange alcoves contained what looked like equipment, but equipment designed for purposes the Zephyrians did not want to think about. "Captain," whispered Engineer Pollock, "look at these markings on the walls. These are not random damage. These are weapon impacts. Veltar examined the walls more carefully. Pollock was right. The scars and burns had patterns that suggested intense combat had taken place within the ship itself. What kind of beings built vessels expecting to fight battles inside their own corridors? They reached a massive chamber deep within the ship. The room was filled with rows upon rows of cylindrical pods, each one large enough to hold a single being. Soft lights pulsed on many of the pods, indicating that whatever was inside was still alive. 1,000 pods, breathed Nimra. Exactly 1,000, just as the scanners indicated. Veltar approached one of the active pods. Through a transparent section at the top, he could see the occupant. His breath caught in his throat. The being inside was unlike any species in the galactic database. It had pale skin and strange flat features. Its body was compact but clearly muscular, built for strength and endurance. Even in sleep, there was something about its posture that suggested readiness, as if it might wake and immediately spring into action. "What are they?" whispered Dr. Kessel. Before anyone could answer, a new sound filled the chamber. Somewhere in the ship, ancient systems were coming to life. Lights began to brighten and a low humming sound grew stronger. "Captain," Talvin called from his portable communicator, "we are detecting massive power increases throughout the ship. Something is activating." Veltar looked around the chamber with growing concern. They had disturbed something that had been sleeping for 3,000 years. Near the center of the room, a large console was lighting up with symbols in that unknown language. Then one of the pods began to open with a soft hissing sound. Veltar and his team backed away as steam rose from the opening pod. Inside, the strange being began to stir. Its eyes opened slowly, revealing sharp intelligence and something else, a wariness that spoke of long experience with danger. The being sat up in the pod, moving with careful precision. It looked around the chamber, taking in the Zephyrians with calm assessment. When it spoke, its voice was clear and controlled, though the words were in an unknown language. Then somehow the ship's systems began translating, and the being's words came through in perfect galactic standard. "Request immediate tactical assessment of current situation. How long were we in stasis? What is the status of the enemy fleet?" Veltar stared at this ancient being who spoke of enemies and tactics as if awakening from a brief nap, rather than 3 millennia of sleep. In that moment, he realized they had found something far more significant and possibly dangerous than a mere archaeological discovery. They had found warriors from a time when the galaxy knew war. The human being stood up from the pod with smooth, practiced movements. Despite having been asleep for 3,000 years, there was no confusion or weakness in her actions. She was of medium height with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Captain Veltar tried to project calm as he approached, keeping his hands visible and movements slow. The Zephyrian way was always peace first. "Greetings, ancient traveler," he said in his most gentle voice. "I am Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian exploration vessel Gentle Current. You have been in deep sleep for a very long time. There are no enemies here. You are safe." The human's eyes fixed on him with sharp attention. She studied his features, his clothing, and the other Zephyrians behind him. When she spoke again, her voice was steady and professional. "I am Commander Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Force assigned to the starship Enduring Will. You said there are no enemies here. How can you be certain? What is your species' military capability?" Dr. Kessel stepped forward carefully. "Commander Chen, we are scientists and explorers. We do not have military vessels. Our people have lived in peace for over 1,000 years." Something changed in Commander Chen's expression. Not surprise exactly, but a kind of careful evaluation, like someone trying to understand a completely foreign concept. 1,000 years of peace, she repeated slowly. "That means the Kithra are gone. We won." "The Kithra?" Veltar asked. "We have no records of this species." Chen looked around the chamber at the other sleeping pods. "How many of my people survived the journey? Are all 1,000 pods still functional?" Nimra checked her scanner. "Yes, Commander. All pods show active life signs. Your entire crew survived." For the first time, Chen's controlled expression softened slightly. "Good, we lost so many during the war. Too many." She walked to a nearby wall panel and placed her hand on it. The panel lit up with symbols and displays that meant nothing to the Zephyrians. "Commander," Veltar said carefully, "perhaps you could tell us about this war. Our historical records from 3,000 years ago are incomplete." Chen's hand moved across the panel with practiced ease. calling up information that appeared on screens around the chamber. Images flashed by too quickly for the Zephyrians to understand, but they caught glimpses of star charts, battle formations, and scenes of destruction on a massive scale. The Terran-Kithra War lasted 218 years, Chen said without emotion. It began when we made first contact with what we thought was another intelligent species. Instead, we found something that saw all life as either food or tools. They had consumed 17 civilizations before they found Earth. She pulled up an image of space filled with countless ships locked in battle. The Kithra were masters of biological warfare. They could turn captured beings into weapons, remake entire worlds to serve their needs. They had been expanding across the galaxy for thousands of years. Dr. Kessel made a soft sound of distress. That sounds terrible. How did your people survive against such an enemy? Chen's smile was cold and sharp. We learned. Humans are very good at learning, especially when the alternative is extinction. We studied them, adapted our tactics, developed new weapons and strategies they had never encountered before. She moved to another panel, and more images appeared. The Zephyrians saw ships that looked nothing like their peaceful exploration vessels. These were clearly built for one purpose only. Earth's population at the start of the war was 12 billion, Chen continued. By the end it was 3 billion. Every major colony was lost, but we won because we became something the Kithra had never faced before. What was that? Feltar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Prey that learned to hunt back. The chamber fell silent except for the humming of the ancient systems. The Zephyrians looked at this human who spoke of planet-destroying wars as calmly as they would discuss weather patterns. Chen accessed more information from the ship's systems. According to the logs, we were the final strike force. 1,000 of Earth's best soldiers, heading to the Kithra home system with a weapon that would end the war permanently. We must have been successful if you say there has been peace for 1,000 years. Commander, Talvin said quietly. What kind of weapon could end such a war? Chen looked at him for a long moment. The kind that ensures your enemy never threatens anyone again. She turned back to the control panel and began typing commands. More pods around the chamber started to open with soft hissing sounds. I am activating the awakening protocol for senior staff first, she explained. We need to assess our situation and determine our next actions. 3 more pods opened. The beings who emerged were clearly cut from the same cloth as Commander Chen. They moved with the same controlled precision, the same instant readiness. Their eyes held the same sharp awareness that spoke of long experience with danger. A tall man with graying hair stepped forward and saluted Chen. Major Rodriguez reporting, Commander. Status of the mission? Unknown at this time, Major. We appear to have achieved our objective. The Kithra are gone. These beings are from a peaceful species that has had no major conflicts for over 1,000 years. Rodriguez looked at the Zephyrians with curious eyes. Peaceful species? I find that hard to believe. Someone must be maintaining the peace through strength. No, Feltar said, trying to explain concepts that seemed foreign to these awakened warriors. We resolve conflicts through discussion, negotiation, and mutual understanding. When disagreements arise, we have councils of mediation. Violence is considered a failure of communication. The newly awakened humans exchanged glances that the Zephyrians could not interpret. A shorter woman with medical insignia emerged from another pod. Dr. Kim reporting, Commander. These aliens resolve conflicts through talking. That appears to be the case, Doctor. Dr. Kim looked around at her awakening comrades, then back at the Zephyrians. That is actually quite beautiful. How do they handle species that do not wish to talk? Veltar felt uncomfortable with the question. Such species are very rare. Most conflicts can be resolved when both sides truly listen to each other. Major Rodriguez stepped closer, and the Zephyrians instinctively backed away slightly. There was something in his posture that suggested he was a being used to others stepping aside for him. Commander, Rodriguez said, what are our orders? Do we integrate with this peaceful civilization, or do we establish our own settlement? Chen considered this question while more pods continued to open around them. Soon there would be dozens of these humans awake, then hundreds. We need more information first, Major. I want a full briefing on current galactic conditions, political structures, and potential threats. These people may have lived in peace for 1,000 years, but we need to understand how that peace is maintained. She turned to Captain Veltar. Captain, I would like to speak with your government officials. We have much to discuss about the current state of the galaxy. Veltar nodded, though he was beginning to feel that they had awakened something they did not fully understand. These humans spoke of peace and discussion, but everything about them suggested beings prepared for war at a moment's notice. As more pods opened and more human warriors awakened, Veltar could not shake the feeling that the peaceful galaxy he knew was about to change forever. By the end of the first day, 50 humans had awakened. Captain Veltar watched them with growing fascination and concern as they moved through their ancient ship with the efficiency of a well-trained team that had worked together for years. Each human who emerged from the pods was different yet similar. There was Captain Okafor, a tall woman with scars on her hands who immediately began checking weapon systems that had been dormant for millennia. Sergeant Martinez appeared to be the youngest, but his eyes held an old weariness that made Veltar uncomfortable. Engineer Thompson started the ship's engines running at full power within hours of awakening. They worked together like a single organism. Nimra observed quietly as they watched the humans coordinate their activities without seeming to communicate directly. Commander Chen had established a command center in what appeared to be the ship's main briefing room. The walls displayed star charts, tactical information, and data streams that updated constantly. She had invited Captain Veltar and his team to join them for what she called a situation briefing. Based on our analysis of your star charts and historical data, Chen began, we have been in stasis for 3,247 years. The Cathera are extinct. Earth has recovered and a peaceful galactic civilization has emerged. Major Rodriguez added, what we find difficult to understand is how this peace is maintained. In our experience, peace requires constant vigilance and the willingness to defend it. Dr. Kessel tried to explain. Our species learned long ago that cooperation brings better results than conflict. When disputes arise, we use meditation councils where all parties share their feelings and work toward understanding. Sergeant Martinez started laughing. It began as a quiet chuckle but grew louder until he was holding his sides. The other humans looked at him with mild concern while the Zephyrians were completely confused. I'm sorry, Martinez gasped between laughs. It's just meditation councils. You solve conflicts with feelings and understanding. He wiped tears from his eyes. That's actually beautiful. I wish we had lived in a time when that was possible. Captain Okafor leaned forward. Sergeant Martinez spent 3 years defending the mining colony at Kepler 442. The Kythera attacked that system with bioweapons that turned the colonists into hunting creatures. He held the evacuation point alone for 6 hours while civilians escaped. Martinez stopped laughing. 17,000 people made it to the evacuation ships. I still dream about the ones who didn't. The room fell silent. The Zephyrians began to understand that these humans carried memories of horrors they could barely imagine. Dr. Kim spoke quietly. We lived in a time when understanding was a luxury we couldn't afford. When your enemy wants to consume your entire species, meditation doesn't work. Only strength does. Commander Chen activated a new display showing current galactic political structures. Your piece is impressive, but it raises questions. How do you handle disagreements between species with different values? What do you do when negotiation fails? Negotiation never truly fails if both sides are committed to finding a solution, Talvin explained. We have mediator species who specialize in helping others communicate better. Engineer Thompson looked up from a technical display. Commander, I've been monitoring galactic communication networks. There's something interesting happening at the outer rim. Multiple systems have gone silent in the past few weeks. Chen's demeanor changed instantly from curious to alert. Define gone silent. No communications, no trade traffic, no sensor readings. It's like they just stopped existing. The Zephyrians looked confused. Perhaps they are having technical difficulties, Nimra suggested. This happens sometimes with older communication systems. Major Rodriguez stood up and walked to the display. How many systems? 17 so far, Commander. All in the outer rim sectors. The pattern suggests something moving inward toward the more populated regions. Captain Veltar felt a chill despite the warm atmosphere of the ship. We should contact the Galactic Council. They will send investigation teams to determine what is happening. Investigation teams, Captain Okafor repeated. What kind of weapons do these investigation teams carry? Weapons? Dr. Kessel looked shocked. They are scientists and diplomats. They carry communication equipment and research tools. The humans exchanged those looks again. Commander Chen stood and walked to a different panel, her fingers moving quickly across controls the Zephyrians didn't recognize. Thompson, I want deep-range sensor scans of those silent systems. Use the military-grade equipment, not the standard sensors these people are used to. Yes, Commander. Within minutes, new information began appearing on the displays. The readings showed energy signatures, movement patterns, and other data that made the humans grow very quiet and very focused. Commander, Thompson said, his voice tight with control, these readings are consistent with systematic planetary consumption. Every system shows the same pattern: massive energy extraction, atmospheric processing, and biological matter conversion. Sergeant Martinez was no longer laughing. It looks like the Kythera, but the energy signatures are different, stronger. Something learned from the Kythera, Dr. Kim said grimly. Something that studied their methods and improved on them. Captain Veltar felt his peaceful worldview crumbling around him. Are you saying that there is a hostile force attacking our outer systems? Commander Chen turned to face the Zephyrians. Her expression was calm, but there was something in her eyes that made them all step backward. Captain Veltar, in your 1,000 years of peace, did your people maintain any military capabilities? Any warships or defense systems? We have some patrol vessels for emergencies, but nothing designed for what you're describing. Major Rodriguez pulled up tactical displays showing the positioning of major galactic civilizations. How long would it take to evacuate the outer systems? Evacuate? Talvin's voice was high with stress. We would need approval from the Galactic Council. Coordination between multiple species, transport logistic. How long? Rodriguez repeated. Perhaps 6 months if all species cooperated fully. Captain Okafor laughed, but it was not a happy sound. 6 months. Thompson, based on the progression pattern, how long before this force reaches the major populated systems? Engineer Thompson worked at his console for several minutes. At current rate of advance, approximately 3 weeks, Commander. The silence that followed was broken by the soft sound of more stasis pods opening throughout the ship. More humans were awakening, responding to some automated protocol triggered by the detection of a threat. Commander Chen walked to the main display and called up an image of the galaxy, with the affected systems marked in red. The pattern was clear. Something was systematically destroying civilizations and moving steadily inward toward the heart of galactic civilization. Captain Veltar, she said quietly, I need you to contact your Galactic Council immediately. Tell them that humanity is awake, and we've detected an existential threat to all galactic life. What will you tell them? Veltar asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Chen's smile was sharp and cold, exactly like when she had first awakened. That the age of peace is over, and that they're going to need warriors again. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear more stasis pods opening. The sound of 1,000 sleeping warriors coming back to life, awakening to find that the galaxy needed them once more. The peaceful galaxy was about to remember why soldiers exist. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen anything like the emergency session that Captain Veltar had requested. Representatives from 47 peaceful species gathered in the Great Crystal Dome on Harmony Station, their various forms of communication creating a gentle symphony of clicks, whistles, and melodic tones. High Counselor Miran of the Alteran Collective floated gracefully at the center of the chamber, her translucent form shimmering with calm colors. Captain Veltar, you speak of ancient warriors and approaching threats. These are concepts we have not needed to consider for many centuries. Veltar stood before the assembly, his usual calm shaken by everything he had witnessed aboard the human ship. Honored counselors, I have seen the sensor readings myself. 17 systems have gone completely silent. No communications, no life signs, no planetary activity. Something is consuming entire worlds. Counselor Thekra of the Vegan Union made a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Surely this is a natural phenomenon, perhaps stellar anomalies or technical failures. We should send research vessels to investigate. We tried that, Veltar replied. 3 investigation ships were sent to the first affected system. They stopped transmitting the moment they entered the system boundary. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly, but they were still the polite murmurs of beings who had never faced true danger. High Counselor Marin's colors shifted to a slightly deeper blue. Then we shall send larger research expeditions with better communication equipment. Perhaps some form of natural interference is blocking signals. The main display in the chamber activated, showing the star map with affected systems marked in red. The pattern was unmistakable. Something was moving systematically through the outer rim, heading directly toward the populated core systems. "Counselors," Veltar said desperately. "The humans I've found have experience with threats like this. They fought a war against beings who consumed entire civilizations. They know how to identify and stop such enemies." Counselor Zephal of the crystalline hegemony made a sound like singing crystal. "These humans you speak of are from a violent age. Surely their knowledge is outdated. We have evolved beyond such primitive responses." At that moment, the chamber's communication system activated. A new voice filled the space, calm, professional, and unmistakably human. "Honored counselors, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force vessel Enduring Will. I request permission to address this assembly regarding the current crisis." The chamber fell silent. After 3,000 years of peace, they were hearing the voice of a warrior. High Counselor Marin's colors shifted to uncertain patterns. "Commander Chen, while we appreciate your offer of assistance, we must handle this situation through established diplomatic channels." "With respect, Counselor," Chen's voice remained perfectly controlled. "Diplomatic channels are ineffective against an enemy that does not communicate. We have analyzed the attack patterns. This is not a natural phenomenon or a communication failure. This is systematic extermination." The display changed, showing detailed tactical analyses that made the peaceful species uncomfortable. Energy, consumption rates, planetary destruction timelines, and movement patterns that spoke of intelligence and purpose. "In 47 hours, Chen continued, this force will reach the Kepler 186 system, home to 8 billion Delphinian civilians. Based on observed patterns, that entire population will be dead within 6 hours of first contact." Counselor Wetall of the Delphinian Republic made a sound of distress. "Commander, surely you exaggerate. No force could destroy an entire system so quickly." "The Kythera could. And whatever this is, it's more efficient than they were." Major Rodriguez's voice joined the transmission. "Counselors, we've identified the approaching force through deep space reconnaissance. We're tracking approximately 50,000 vessels of unknown configuration, moving in perfect formation. They do not respond to any communication attempts. They do not slow down or change course for anything in their path." The chamber erupted in concerned sounds from dozens of species. For the first time in centuries, genuine fear was present in the council chambers. High Counselor Marin's colors had shifted to worried yellow patterns. "What do you propose, Commander Chen?" "Immediate evacuation of all systems in the projected path. Deploy every available transport vessel to move civilian populations to safety, and authorize the Enduring Will to engage the enemy force with full military protocols." "Military protocols?" Counselor Thekra sounded confused. "We do not understand this term." There was a pause before Chen answered. "We're going to stop them." "How?" Another pause. "The only way we know how." Captain Veltar watched the display as new information appeared. The human ship was moving, departing its position and heading directly toward the approaching threat. Its energy readings were climbing to levels that seemed impossible. "Commander," High Counselor Marin called. "What are you doing?" "Our job, Counselor. We are warriors. This is what we do." On the display, they could see the Enduring Will accelerating beyond anything they thought possible. Its hull began to glow with energy fields that no galactic species had ever developed. Engineer Thompson's voice came through the communication system. "Counselors, you should know that the Enduring Will was not just a transport vessel. It was Earth's final strategic weapon, designed to end the Kythera War permanently. We carry technology that your peaceful civilizations never needed to develop." "What kind of technology?" Veltar asked, though he feared the answer. "The kind that turns one ship into a force that can face 50,000. The chamber's sensors detected massive energy buildups from the human vessel. Weapon systems that had been dormant for 3 millennia were coming online, powered by energy sources that the peaceful species couldn't comprehend. Commander Chen's voice returned, now carrying the tone of someone preparing for battle. All council members should begin immediate evacuation procedures for threatened systems. Do not wait for committee approval. Do not follow standard bureaucratic protocols. Move your people now. Commander, High Counselor Marin asked quietly, what are your chances of success? The silence stretched long enough that many in the chamber thought the connection had been lost. Finally, Chen answered. Counselor, we spent 200 years learning how to fight enemies that consume civilizations. We became very good at it. This enemy made one critical mistake. What mistake? They woke us up. The display showed the enduring will reaching the edge of the affected zone, where long-range sensors had detected the first elements of the approaching enemy fleet. The human ship didn't slow down or attempt to communicate. Instead, weapons that had ended an interstellar war began to charge for battle. In the council chamber, 47 peaceful species watched in fascination and terror as they witnessed something their civilization had never seen. Warriors going to war. The age of peace was ending, but perhaps something better was beginning. The age of those willing to fight for peace. Through the communication system, they could hear the sounds of 1,000 human voices coordinating for battle, their words crisp and professional. These were not beings who hoped for victory. These were beings who had spent centuries learning how to achieve it. The galaxy was about to remember why some sleep with swords beside their beds. From the safety of Harmony Station, the Galactic Council watched through long-range sensors as one ancient human ship faced an enemy fleet that stretched across entire star systems. The enduring will moved through space like a creature born to it, dancing between enemy formations with impossible grace while unleashing weapons that turned enemy vessels into expanding clouds of superheated gas. Captain Veltar stood in the observation deck, watching displays that showed combat on a scale his peaceful mind could barely process. Beside him, the council representatives whispered among themselves in dozens of languages, all expressing the same amazement and terror. How is this possible? High Counselor Marin asked, her translucent form flickering with colors of confusion and awe. One ship against 50,000? The answer came through the communication channel in Commander Chen's calm voice, transmitted between the sounds of battle. Counselor, these enemies fight like the Kethera did, with overwhelming numbers and brute force. But they make the same mistake the Kethera made. What mistake? Veltar asked. They assume that because they've never lost a battle, they cannot lose. On the displays, they watched as the human ship executed maneuvers that should have been impossible. It moved through enemy formations, its weapons striking with precision that seemed to predict where enemy ships would be before they arrived there. Major Rodriguez's voice came through the channel. Enemy vessels show no tactical adaptation. They're fighting like a swarm species with individual intelligence but no collective learning ability. Classic consumption-based expansion pattern. Dr. Kim added, biological analysis confirms these are not the original builders of these ships. These creatures conquered a shipbuilding species and are using their technology without understanding it. The tactical displays showed something remarkable happening. The massive enemy fleet, despite its overwhelming numbers, was beginning to fall apart. Ships collided with each other as they tried to respond to the human vessel's unpredictable movements. Their weapons, designed for overwhelming weaker opponents, couldn't track a target that fought with 3,000 years of accumulated battle experience. Commander Chen, High Counselor Marin called. How many of your people are aboard your ship? 1,000, Counselor. Earth's finest warriors chosen specifically for this mission. 1,000 beings are defeating 50,000 ships? There was a pause filled with the sounds of weapon fire and tactical communications. Then Chen answered with something that might have been pride in her voice. Counselor, we are not just any 1,000 beings. We are the survivors of a war that lasted longer than your current civilization has existed. We are the ones who looked into the darkest parts of the galaxy and learned how to push back. Every person on this ship earned their place by proving they could stand against impossible odds. Sergeant Martinez's voice joined in, filled with the controlled excitement of someone doing what they were born to do. Besides, it's not 1,000 against 50,000. It's 1,000 who know how to fight against 50,000 who only know how to consume. The battle continued through the night cycle of the station, The peaceful species watched in fascination as they witnessed something they had never imagined, the art of war practiced by masters. The humans didn't just fight. They taught their enemies fear. Ships that had never retreated in thousands of years of conquest began to break formation and flee. The unstoppable force that had consumed 17 civilizations met beings who had learned to be an immovable object. As dawn broke over Harmony Station, the displays showed the impossible. The enemy fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind the wreckage of thousands of destroyed vessels. Commander Chen's voice filled the council chamber, now carrying the weariness that follows intense combat. Enemy fleet has withdrawn beyond sensor range. Threat to core systems has been eliminated. Beginning damage assessment and casualty reports. Casualties? Dr. Kessel asked with concern. 17 injured, none severely. 0 fatalities. The chamber fell silent. 1,000 human warriors had faced an enemy that destroyed entire civilizations and emerged with only minor injuries. Commander, High Counselor Miran said quietly, how can we ever thank you? The silence stretched long enough that many wondered if the connection had been lost. Finally, Chen answered, you don't need to thank us, Counselor. This is what we do. This is what we've always done. Captain Veltar found his voice. What will you do now, Commander? The threat is ended. Will you integrate into our peaceful society? Another pause. When Chen spoke again, her words carried a weight that made everyone in the chamber understand that they were hearing something profound. Captain, we've seen what's out there in the deep space between galaxies. This enemy wasn't the first and it won't be the last. There are things in the dark that hunger for what you've built here. This beautiful galaxy where species resolve conflicts through understanding rather than strength. Major Rodriguez's voice added, we've seen the peace you've created. We've watched species work together through cooperation instead of conquest. It's everything we fought to protect during the war, and more than we ever dreamed possible. But, Dr. Kim continued, peace like this requires guardians. Someone has to stand watch in the darkness beyond your borders, ready for the things that don't understand meditation or negotiation. The tactical display changed, showing the enduring will moving toward the galaxy's edge, beyond the inhabited systems toward the vast emptiness of intergalactic space. Commander Chen's final words carried across the chamber with quiet finality. We're going to establish a watch station at the galaxy's rim. We'll maintain early warning systems and patrol the deep void. When something comes from the darkness, and something always does, we'll be ready. You're leaving? Talvin asked with unexpected sadness. We're not leaving, Chen corrected gently. We're standing guard. There's a difference. Captain Veltar watched the displays showing the ancient human ship heading toward the edge of known space. Will we see you again? You'll know we're there. When your children's children look up at the stars and feel safe enough to dream of peace instead of survival, they'll be feeling the security we provide. When your descendants explore new systems without fear, they'll be protected by our vigilance. The communication channel carried the sounds of the humans preparing for their new mission. Weapon systems were being maintained, sensor arrays calibrated for long-range detection, and training schedules established for eternal readiness. Sergeant Martinez's voice came through one last time, carrying a warmth that hadn't been there before. Hey, council people. You've built something amazing here. A galaxy where different species actually get along, where problems get solved by talking instead of fighting. That's worth protecting. As the enduring will disappeared beyond the range of normal sensors, heading for the cold emptiness at the galaxy's edge, the council chamber remained silent for a long time. Finally, High Counselor Miran spoke for all of them. They've given us the greatest gift possible, the ability to remain peaceful because someone else is willing to stand ready for war. In the deep space beyond the galaxy's rim, 1,000 human warriors began their eternal watch, maintaining weapons and training for battles they hoped would never come, standing guard in the darkness so that the light behind them could continue to shine. The galaxy slept peacefully, protected by guardians who chose to remain awake in the cold and empty places where nightmares lived. And in the deepest space, the humans waited with patient vigilance, ready for whatever came from the hungry dark, because they knew their purpose, to be the sword and shield that peace required to exist.